Hi everyone, this is Deekshit. Welcome to my channel. In this particular video, I'm going to discuss answers for DevOps Mock Interview 1. So please watch DevOps Mock Interview 1 before watching this video. I'll leave a link in description. So coming to this video, as I said, I'm going to discuss answers for the questions. So each question have a different types of answer. So whatever the knowledge that I have, with that, like I'm going to answer these questions. So if you feel any other answer which is like better than whatever answer I've given, so you can just comment it in the comment section. So other people will also come to know like there is a better answer than this one. Now let's start with the questions. First, we will start with Git questions. So the first question was why we need Git and what makes Git unique from other tools like SVN. So all the code and automation test cases, if a project has automation testing, so then all those things will be placed under SCMs. It can be a GitHub, Bitbucket, Azure repos, or it depends on a project what they have taken. So to deal with this SCM, you need to have a client tool, so which is basically a Git. So Git is version control system, so wherein it tracks the changes you make to the files. So when you have a like do the changes, you'll also have a record for that change, and also you can revert it back to a specific version. So if you feel there is a bug in present version, so then you can always go back to a specific version which is working fine. And also Git makes collaboration easier, allowing the changes by multiple people to all be merged into a one source. So when you have a couple of people who is contributing to the same project, so they all can contribute to one project. And so if any one more person, if he comes and joins to the team, so then you can go ahead and you can clone that and you can again work on that. And also other part of question was why Git is better than SVN. So there are two types of version control system. One is centralized, another one is distributed version control system. So in a centralized version control system, it is basically subversion. So in that, so you'll have central repository and your local machine. So in your local machine, you don't have any working copy. Means like you'll have working copy, but you don't have something called as local repository. So if you want to do anything, commit, update, any operations, you should always be online with your central repository. And if your central repository goes down, so then you won't be able to access your code at all. So in other and distributed version control system, so you'll have kind of like it's a three layer architecture. So you'll have working copy and there is something called as local repository, as you can see on the slide. And then we have a remote repository. So whatever the changes, like whenever you want to do the push or pull, fetch, so in that time only you need to be there online with your remote repository. So or else you'll have a local copy, so you can always work with that local repository. You'll have a local copy, right? So with that you can always work upon. And other things are like so branching, revert, log, everything in subversion you need to do it in the central repository, wherein like in distributed, so in our case it is a Git, so you can do it in remote repository as well as in your local. So that's why distributed version control system have always an advantage over a uh, centralized version control system. So there are many other differences as well, but to keep it short, so I've just taken major differences. Okay. So the next question was, let's say I have a Maven repo cloned onto my local, did some changes, and I have built the code. Now the target folder will be generated. So now when I do Git operations like git add, git commit, or any Git operations, the target folder shouldn't be considered. So how to achieve this? So we can achieve this by using git ignore. Basically, see target folder which has artifacts, right? It is not a valid candidate to be there in a Bitbucket. So it should be whatever the jar or artifacts which will be generated by Maven should be there in some artifactory. So that's the reason. So whichever you feel it should be ignored for all Git operations. So that time you can go ahead and you can create a .git ignore and then you can do it. So let's see a demo for this. Okay. So what I'll do is I have a machine. So wherein I have already installed Git here. So let me take one more thing. So this is my GitHub repository. So what I'll do is I'm going to take this particular sample web application. So what I'll do is I'll just gonna clone this particular repo, cd, not cd, I'll just clone it here, git clone. and then the clone link. Okay, so let me go inside sample web application, and here my POM is there. So what I'll do is mvn clean install. So in the question they've mentioned like if it is a small change. Okay, anyway, like I'm not doing any change, but let me do mvn install. So what it does, it will gonna create a target folder which will have everything like the artifacts in it. Okay, so it'll gonna take a couple of seconds because so it is downloading all the dependencies and the plugins whatever you have defined in your project. So now as you can see it took 10 seconds. Okay, so now when I see here, so one folder has been created which is target. Basically it will have all the artifacts related to my project. Okay, when I do git status now, so this particular target folder is taken into account. So like let's say now in our case now it is only one folder. Like let's say if a particular command generates like hundreds of artifacts and you don't want to consider them to your git operations, so then it's very easy. Like you can create a .git ignore file, ignore, and then what you need to do is you need to take this target folder. So in my case, so then you can include this target folder here. So now when I do git status, target folder shouldn't be displayed. Okay, let me clear the screen. So now when I do git status, see the target folder is not considered. So that's the reason, like when you have a git ignore and whatever the files and whatever the regular expression, whatever the folders that you mentioned, it will be ignored for all your git operations. Okay, so this is how, if you want to ignore particular file, so this is how you will do it. Okay, so let's go ahead onto the next question. So the next question is difference between git pull and git fetch. So first see what git pull and git fetch is. So then we will see a simple demo. So how git fetch works and git pull works. So git pull, so it performs two functions using a single command. So basically it performs git fetch plus git merge. And when you clone a repository onto your local machine, so there will be two kinds of branches. One is remote branches, another one is like local branches. Remote branches, how we will identify is the remote branches will be suffixed with remote. So I'll just show you like to see all the command, all the branches that our particular repo has. The command for that is the git branch -e. So it will list out all the branches that we have. Okay, I'll just show you that. Before that, so what git pull does is it fetches all the changes that were made to the remote branch. Then so it will take the changes onto the remote branch, then it merges those changes to the local branch. As I said, like there'll be two kinds of branches. One is local branches and remote branches. So what it will do is like it will gonna fetch the changes from remote repository onto the remote branch, and then it will merge it back to local branch. And the next one is git fetch. So as I've already shown, so git pull is equals to git fetch plus git merge. Git fetch does only half of the work what git pull does. It just brings the changes on your remote repository onto the remote branches. Okay, so then if you want to see those changes onto your local branch, so then you need to explicitly do merge. Okay, so now quickly we will see how it works. Okay, now I've already cloned my repository, right? So what I'll do is now I'll execute git branch -a. Okay, so hope you're able to see this. Like let me increase the size of it. So as you can see now, when I execute git branch -a, so I'll be able to see many branches. Like as you can see, whichever the branches has remote in it, so those are remote branches. Whichever is not suffixed with remotes, so then those are local branches. Okay, so now what I'll do is first let me change few things in GitHub. Okay, so this is my project. What I'll do is let me change this readme.md. What I'll do in this, I'll just do a small change. This Tomcat is there, right? I'll just gonna change only this Tomcat T from uppercase to lowercase. So after that, I'll just gonna commit it. So once I commit it, so now when I do git pull, So what it does, so it basically takes the changes and then it will place it in local branch, right? So before that, what we will do is we will do a git fetch. Okay, so when I do git fetch, so as you can see, there was some changes. So then those things are there in Origin, Ansible, Sonar. Okay, it's not there in our local branch yet. So if I do cat and readme.md, so you'll be not able to see that change. So still it is a uppercase. Okay, so when I go back to my remote branch, which is this particular branch, Origin, Ansible, Sonar, when I go this for this particular branch, when I do cat here, see this particular changes are there. So that's what I mentioned. So what fetch will do is it will gonna take the changes from your remote repository and it will keep it in remote branches in your local. Okay, if you want to have those changes onto your local branch, so then what you need to do is first you need to go check out. Sorry, git checkout, and you need to give the branch name. So basically in our case, it is Ansible Sonar. So let me go there. So still if I see readme.md, so it shouldn't be updated. Now when I do git merge, and then so if I give origin and then slash, so this Ansible Sonar, so that time I'll be able to see those changes once I'm merging. This when it helps is like, let's say now somebody has changed something. So whatever the file that you are working, the same file has been changed. If you know that like the same file has been changed, before getting those changes onto your local branch, you just wanted to check what are all the changes he did to other person. So in that case, like what you can do is you can fetch it and you can compare it, like what are all the changes he did, whether it is really okay, like to merge it back to my local, or so those kind of things you can check it. And if you're okay, then you can merge it. Okay. So on the other end, so what git pull does is, so let me what I'll do is let me correct those changes back. Like I'll just update this capital, like a lowercase 2 t to uppercase t. So when I do this one, so when I do now git pull, okay, so as you can see now when I do a cat and readme.md, so what it does, it will gonna take the changes directly from that remote repository to my local branch. So in the background, so what it does, it will get the remote repository changes to remote branch, and then it will get back those things to my local branch. Okay, so this is a basic difference between git pull and git fetch. And the next question was how to clone a specific branch in a Git. So as you can see till now when we just discussed about this one, so let me clear the screen. So now when I do this one, so as you can see now here, so there are like when I do git branch -a, so all the branches will be visible for you, right? So like let's say I want to, I'm doing some automation. I wanted to go to this particular, I want to clone this particular branch and I need to do some file changes and check in back. So in this, there are only 8 or 9 branches, but wherein like in actual repositories, like if a project is consists of like hundreds of developers, then many branches will be there. So cloning all the branches, like it doesn't make any sense and it will take much time and your .git folder will be increased, right? So for that reason, so if you want to clone only a specific branch, so how we can do it. So yeah, there is an option wherein like we can specify in git clone command, so that clones only a particular branch. Okay, so for that what I'll do is let me go back to my home directory. I'll do rmrf and sample web application. So when I do this, I don't have anything. What I'll do is git clone, and I need to give an option which is -b, and then I need to specify which branch I need. So let me take the backup branch. Okay, and then so there is an option -single branch. So you need to use this particular option. If you don't use this option, so when you use only this particular option, what it does, it will clone all the branches, but when you go inside that particular folder, so cloned folder, so by default it is on this backup branch. Okay, if you want to clone only backup branch, so then you need to use -single branch. And then what I'll do is let me take the clone link. So if you want to play with this example, so you can always go ahead and you can fork these things. Okay, so let me clone these things. Okay, so now when I do cd sample web application and when I do ls, so now when I do git branch -a, you'll be able to see only backup branch. Only a single branch has been cloned onto our machine. Okay, so this is how, if you want to clone a specific branch, so this is how you can do it. So the next questions, so we will, it was on Maven, so we will jump onto Maven. So now in the Maven, the first question was when I issue a MVN install, so what are all the things that will going to happen in background? Okay, so now what we will do is, so let me take this particular example itself. Before that, what I'll do is like, so I want to explain the build life cycles before seeing the output of the MVN install. So there are three life cycles in Maven. One is default, clean, and site. So when you execute MVN clean, what it does, it basically does the cleanup. In layman terms, it directly deletes the target folder, whatever it has been generated in the previous executions of the command. And there is one more thing, which is MVN site. So Maven is not only a build tool, it is a project management tool as well. So when you execute MVN site, it creates a lot of documentation and good documentation about your project. So it will give the number of dependencies, number of plugins, and what are all the transitive dependencies, and OS, like if you have any metadata you have provided in your POM, so it will be segregated properly. Okay, and now another so life cycle was default. So default has 7 phases. Okay, as you can see on the screen, so it is validate, compile, test, package, verify, install, deploy. These are the 7 phases of default lifecycle. So when you execute MVN install, what it does is, so in the background, it'll gonna execute MVN validate. So it validates the correctness of your pom.xml, whether all the information has been supplied properly or not. It'll gonna check, and then it'll execute MVN compile. MVN compile basically creates the .class files of your project, and the next thing is test phase, wherein it will apply all the unit test cases that you have written onto your .class files. So then it is like Maven as a build tool, right? It obviously creates some jar files and some war files depending on project. So in this phase, it will gonna create the executable, this package phase. And the next one is verify phase. So in this, all the system integration test cases will be applied onto your jar. Okay, to verify whether system integration test cases are like properly working or not. And the last one is not the last one, last before one is like MVN install. What it does, whatever the artifacts that has been generated in this project by using package, so that particular artifact will be copied onto .m2, so which is called as local repository in Maven. Okay, so and also the last one is like MVN deploy. So if you want to push your artifacts to any artifactory like JFrog or Nexus, you can use that, and you can achieve that. Okay, so when you execute MVN install, so by default it will gonna run all these things. So when you execute MVN package, so in that time it will execute MVN validate, compile, and test. When you execute MVN verify, so it will do all these things. So what we will do is we will see a simple what I'll do is MVN clean. So let me give install. So as you can see, now you can see in the logs actually. So what are all the things it will gonna run. So okay, as you can see here, see Maven compiler plugin. So what it is, like all the whatever the stages are there, right? Like the phases. So in Maven perspective, it is the plugins. Okay, so as you can see, it is running resources, means like it is getting the resource information, and it is doing a compilation, and then it is applying the test cases, and then it is creating a war file, because mine is web application. That's the reason it is creating a war. So in this case, this is like package phase. So in the install, as you can see here, the war file which has been generated for this project will be copied onto .m2 folder, which is there in like the home folder of your machine, under your user. Okay, so it is local installation. You can say it's a local installation. So it will transfer your war file or a jar file to .m2 folder. Okay. And the next question is, what are the settings that you need to do before running MVN deploy? So for this to explain, so I have one more repo, so which is, so let me go back to my username and then click on repositories. And here, so there is something called as Nexus Maven samples. So let me clone this one onto my mission. So I'll do cd dot dot. Now git clone and then the clone link. So now before executing MVN deploy, what I'll do is, so I'll just explain what are the settings that you need to have. Okay, the first thing what you need to do is, like in .m2 folder, you need to have settings.xml. Means like you need to specify the username and password of your Artifactory. So in my case, I'm using Nexus, so which is already up and running in my case. Okay, so you need to specify the information about your Nexus repository. What is the username? What is the password? All those things you need to specify here. So this is everything is commented. If you come here, like if you scroll, if I scroll down, so as you can see here, so this is what I've used. I've used a server, and wherein I've specified the ID. So I'll be using this ID again in my pom.xml. I'll just show that as well. So then I'm using username and the password. The username password of your artifact you need to specify here. Okay, so this is the setting that you need to do here. And after that, so in my MVN project, Maven project, if you see in pom.xml, so what I've specified is, here I'm specifying my repository. So if you see there, so that ID and this ID should be matching. So there you're providing the settings like the username and password. So wherein here I'm specifying where my artifact should go. If it is a snapshot, it should go here. If it is a release, then it should go here. So that is what I'm specifying here. In my case, if you see my version, it is a release, right? So that it will go to this particular release repository. Okay, so now let me clone this one. So I guess I've already cloned this one. So let me go inside the sample web application. So not sample web application, it is Nexus sample. So before that, I'll make sure whatever I've cloned as my IP address, Nexus IP address properly is given. What I'll do is, oh, I was in pom.xml itself. So let me check it in pom.xml. So it is 35188 and my Nexus is, yeah, it is one and the same. As you can see, this IP address I mean. Okay, now it is proper. So what I'll do is, so before that, so I'll just gonna move the settings.xml to my .m2 folder. Okay, because in the local repository only my settings.xml should be placed. So that's the reason I'm just copying this settings.xml to my .m2. Okay, so now .m2 has been settings.xml has been transferred to .m2. So now let me go inside demo and then I'll execute MVN deploy. Okay, when I do this one, it will gonna execute. So all the steps as I told you in the previous example. So it will gonna execute all those things, validate, package, test, verify, and install. So then it will gonna take the artifact and it will publish it to the Nexus. So it will take a little time. So it is executing the test phase now. And so we can go to Nexus meanwhile. And so mine is release, right? So Maven release is a place it will gonna upload. So when I click on this one, still no components are there because I guess like it is still running. So now when I see this one, Maven releases, okay, I should have it there. I guess I've deleted somehow, but yeah. So as you can see, Maven public as, see, it is it should be there. I don't know why it has been deleted. So I guess I think I've deleted some components like some repository name and all. So that's the reason. But yeah, Maven public is the combination of both my MVN Maven a snapshot and a release. As you can see here, this says like it has been uploaded. uploading to this particular repository. So you can see here, right? So this is uploading. So now if you want to do any MVN deploy, so these are all the two settings. One is you need to have server details in your settings.xml, and in pom.xml you should have this particular block, distribution management. And in distribution management you need to specify the URL where you need to push it, and the ID what you have specified in settings.xml should be matched with this one. Okay. And the next question was why Maven takes much time in the first execution and the second execution will take less time. So I've executed everything previously, right? So what I'll do is, let me take one more repo which is there in my under my username, so which is Jenkins file repository. So Jenkins file, I'll take this one. So now let me clone this onto my local, git clone, and then so when I do git clone, so it will clones for me. So let me go inside. So when I do mvn install here, mvn clean install, so then it will take, we can see how much time will it take. So at the end, as you can see, it is like downloading many things. So as I've run two projects, right? So that time it has downloaded all the repositories, and it will take, well, first time what it does is whatever the dependencies that you have mentioned, so it will gonna download, it will download and then it will place it in .m2. Okay. So now again, if I do mvn install, so it should ideally take less than whatever it has been taken previously, like it is 3 seconds, right? It should take less time, because what happens is, like if I go to my .m2 folder, so when you execute for the first time, so if any repository, like not the repository, any dependency that you have defined in your pom.xml will be downloaded and kept here. Okay. So for the second time when you run it, so it will refer it from here. So if it is there, first how Maven works is, first it will check in the local repository. If that dependency is there in local repository, so then it will fetch it from here. If it doesn't exist, then it will go to central repository and then it will fetch it. Okay. So that's why, so when you execute first for the first time, so it will take much time. So when you execute for the second time, so already, so all the dependencies will be downloaded. So that's the reason it will take very less time. Okay. And the next questions on Unix and shell scripting. The first question on shell scripting was how to get a present working folder. So this is, so when you do PWD, you basically get a full path. So my question was, so I need to get, say, let's say I'm in this particular folder, right? So when I execute that particular command, I should get only that particular value. If I execute in a home directory, so now if I do PWD, so my current directory is this one, I should get output as home only. Okay. So in that case, there is something called as a base name command. You can use that. So the command is base name, and then so you need to use a double quotes, the $pwd. When you use this one, so you'll get only the present working folder. Okay. So if I go back to home directory, so if you see now, I'm not in this particular directory. When I execute the base name again, so I'll be able to get only the home as output. Okay. So now if we will check it for another thing as well. So I have cloned the Nexus, right? So when I do base name, and then I'll use a double quotes. Sorry about that. $pwd. When I execute this one, so I'll get only the present working folder. Okay. So there is one more way, like so there are many ways like by which you can achieve it. So another way is like if that base name command is not supported in all the versions, all the Linux flavors, so you can use pwd and you can do some workaround and then you can get the output as well. So what you can do is pwd reverse, so it will gonna reverse the output, and then what I'll do is cut -d. So I am delimiting by using this, and then I'm selecting the field 1. and then I'm just reversing again. Okay, the same output. So base name, whatever you get it from base name, you will get it by using this command as well. But if base name is supported, it's better to use this. So rather than pipelining it. Okay. And the next question is how to copy a file from local Windows machine to the cloud-based Linux machine. So there are for each cloud platform like AWS, Google Cloud, and Azure. So they have their own command lines like AWS CLI, Google Cloud. So by using those things, I guess like we will be able to copy that. So apart from that, so we have something called as PSAP. So especially if you want to copy from your local machine by using Windows PowerShell prompt, so then you can use PSAP option, so by which like you will be able to transfer the file from your local Windows machine onto the Nexus from reverse way, like vice versa also is possible. So now let's see the example for that as well. So let me open my PowerShell. So what I'll do is I'll just open it in some of the folder itself. Okay, PowerShell, and let me open this. So now what I'll do is yes, let me increase the font. So what I'll do is I'll just gonna transfer one of the file onto my this particular machine. So basic Ubuntu. So for this machine, I'll gonna copy. So what I need to do is here now PSCP. I need to say which file I want to send. So let me send it Postman. So I'll just postman.newspec file to where like you need to specify the username and you need to specify the IP and also colon. So where you need to copy. So what I'll do is I'll do a cd dot dot now. So I don't have that new spec file. So let me give this particular folder. Okay. So when I give this one, so it should ideally it should ask me the password as well. So I'm entering the password. So it should copy successfully now. So when I do ls in my machine, so I should be able to see that content. So when I do postman spec, so I should be able to see the content as well. Okay. So this is how if you want to transfer any file from your Windows machine onto your Linux machine. So then this is the way. If you want to do a vice versa, then you need to specify, as you can see here. So PSCP and whatever the username and the DNS name or IP of your machine and the folder where from where you need to copy and folder which you need to gets copied like that file onto your machine. Okay. Next question is a shell script named test.sh can accept 4 parameters. So that is A, B, C, D. The parameters won't be supplied in order always, and the number of parameters can also vary. So it can be only A, B, or it can be C, D. Okay, it can be jumbled also. I can send like C, A, B, D. So that is how. Okay, but in this case, I want to identify the position of letter C. Okay, so how we will write the shell script for that. So this shell script I've already written. So what I'll do is let me go to my GitHub again. So there is a repo called shell script. So in that I've kept my shell scripts. Shell script. So here, so there is something called identity underscore position underscore parameter. So what you can do is like you can copy this one. So if you are interested, you can fork this repository as well. Now here, this is very simple. So what I did is like I've initialized I is equals to 0. And I'm running a for loop. So when you use $I, so what it does, whatever the parameters you're sending it from your as a parameter will be stored as an array in this at array. Okay. So I'm running a for each loop. So every parameter I'm taking individually. Okay. And then I'm doing an increment because so whenever I do one for each loop, I want it to increment because this is how you'll get the position, right? So that's the reason I'm just incrementing it. And then I'm searching like if $P, in my case, $P is like the each parameter, like the first parameter for the first time, second parameter for the second loop like that. So if it is C, so then I'm just doing an echo. So I'm just doing users applied. So sorry about the spelling mistake, typo. And so as parameter in $I position. So for every loop, I'm just incrementing. Okay. So I'll just gonna take this particular shell script. So let me show it. VI, and I'll just name it as test.sh. Okay, and so in this, like, I'll keep this. So let me execute this one, sh test.sh. I'll send A, B, C, and D. Okay, so as you can see now it is in the third position, so that's the reason I'm getting that. So if I take off the C, so I won't get any output because I'm not supplied. So I'm just verifying if loop, right? If C is not there, you won't get any output. And if I'm jumbling like D and then again C, so ideally I should get 4. Okay, and one more case I specified was like number of parameters. It might change with number of parameters as well. So when I do this one, so I should get ideally 2, so I'm getting the proper output. So this was the simple script so that I've created. So if you want to execute this in your systems, so then you can go ahead and you can copy and execute these things. Okay. And so next questions, it was in Ansible. So why we need ad hoc commands in Ansible? So and also give the scenario where you have used ad hoc commands. So yeah, so ad hoc commands are basically user/bin when you install Ansible. So this command line by default will be installed. Okay, and so these things are like if you want to achieve some quick task, like if you want to copy something from your host machine onto the node. So or else if you want to ping a particular mission, so then you can use ad hoc commands and then you can achieve those things very easily. And these things are not reusable because like once you execute the command, so that's all. Like you want to achieve that task again, then you need to execute that command again. Okay, it's not like playbook. And then so you can say examples like if you want to ping a particular mission, so this is how, like I've given the all combinations like Ansible hyphen all, in the sense like if you have one IP, if you want to execute only that particular on that particular node, so this is how, like you need to give hyphen I, all hyphen I, and you need to specify the IP address comma hyphen M and ping. Okay, when you have a host file, so in which like you want to take the only dev group, and then you can do that as well. So let me show one Ansible ad hoc command. So what I'll do is I have a Ansible master for that, which is already configured. Okay, I'll just execute verify Ansible version. So this is also mandatory, like so in few of the interviews I've seen, like they'll ask you randomly, so which version of Maven, which version of Ansible, which version of Git you have used. So it is better like make it down, so what are all the versions that you've used for your projects or for your practice. Okay, so Ansible has been installed in this particular machine. So what I'll do is now I'll do Ansible ping, that's all. Okay, so I have something host file. So let me check. So is there anything? So 35. So let me verify this IP addresses exists or not. I guess that is the same 35.202. Yeah, so this is the same. So what I'll do is Ansible. I'll give dev, and I'm just giving inventory file as host, and what module I need to execute. It is basically a ping. So this is a basic module. If you want to test the connectivity, so this is a module you use. So you can use any other commands like that. So you can use copy module, and then as you can see in the slide, so you can give the source hyphen A you need to give. So basically arguments. So before that, I'll check any files are there. Yeah, I have a test.yml, right? So let me send that itself. Okay, so I'll just copy and then hyphen A, and then in the single quotes, I guess I need to supply source and destination. Okay, src is equals to my test.yml, YAML, and then destination is dest is equals to, and I'll give this particular thing. So it should execute successfully. So when I go to that particular mission, so this is my mission, as you can see for the confirmation. So basic Ubuntu. So this is my basic Ubuntu. So when I do this ls here, so I should be able to see test.yml. Okay. So this is if you want to achieve any small tasks or like one-time tasks. So then you can go ahead and you can use Ansible documents. And the next question is, when I need a detailed log on executing Ansible playbook, what option do I need to use? So when I run Ansible playbook, it won't give me detailed output. It just says like how many has changed and what are all the tasks, the information, only minimal information it gives. Like let's say I want to see the detailed output, what are all the things that's happening and what are all the things that will gonna happen. Everything if I want to see, so how it is done. Okay, so let us take a simple playbook. So again, there is a repo in my GitHub, which is Ansible. So here I've written examples like all the YML files for each of the modules. So you can go ahead and you can refer this. So let me take a copy module. So as of now, so what I'll do is I'll just copy this onto Ansible master. So VI and test. So test is already there. So what I'll do is let me call this one as copy.yml. And in this, I'm gonna paste this. Okay, it is not copied properly. So what I'll do is let me copy it again. Okay. Host. So here I need to specify the proper host path. What I'll do is here the test dot. Okay, this is already there, right? I'll just do host files. This is just an example I'm just taking. So destination path. So let me save this first. WQ, and I'll take this directory. It is same directory in that machine as well. So that's why I'm just copying from here. Okay, so let me copy this one and paste it here. Okay, so now when I execute Ansible playbook, first let's execute normally. So I'll just show you the difference. Then I need to give the group. So basically, let me check whether I've already have that group name specified in that YML file. Then I don't need to specify. Yeah, I've already specified as host, right? So in this case, Ansible-playbook, and then I need to give the host file, and then I need to give the playbook name. In my case, it is copy.yml. Okay, so as you can see, this is very minimal information. So I want it in details. So then there is an option which you can use for a detailed output. If you want to see all the low level information, so then -vvv, so which gives the information for your, like what are all the things it is running, all the information it gives to you. Okay, so this is if you want a detailed output, so then you can go ahead and you can use that particular option. And what is ansible.cfg file? So ansible.cfg will by default it presents in /etc/ansible. So you can define certain settings in ansible.cfg. So this is the link. So when I click on this one, so you will be able to see what are all the settings that will be there in ansible.cfg. Yes, yeah. So you can specify where your host file is there on by default, on what user you need to run your playbook. All those things you can specify it here. So by default, it'll be there in etc/ansible. Okay. So everything is like by default, it is like commented. If you want to enable anything, so say inventory. So if you have your inventory file under this file folder, so you can just give that value and you can uncomment this one. So then all Ansible playbooks will assume your host is here. Okay, you don't need to that time. You don't need to specify. Actually, this -i is there, right? you don't need to specify that particular option -I. Okay, so basically you'll just have all the certain settings in ansible.cfg. And what are all the modules you have worked on? So which module is used for getting the file from node to master? So previously we have seen one module, so which is copy, which copies from Ansible master onto the node. So this is reverse case. If you want to get from the node onto the master, how will you do that? And before that, the first thing, so you need to say, yes, I've worked on a couple of modules, and you can name according to your usage. You can say whatever the modules that you have worked on. So these are the common modules that I've listed here: copy, fetch, enum, debug, get URL, expect, template, file, apt, command, shell module. And also, as I mentioned, so I have a repo wherein I have given the demo, means sample YML for almost all the modules that I've specified in slide. So you can go ahead and you can refer these things if you're interested. So then the next part of the question is which module is used for getting the file from node onto the master. So which is basically a fetch module. So what it does, it will take the file from the host, means not the host, from the node onto our master, Ansible master. So let's take this particular YML file. So what I'll do is, let me clear the screen. Clear. So now when I do ls, so I have few files vi. So what I'll do is fetch.yml. Okay, so I'll just create this. So whatever the content I've copied from that, I'm gonna copy it here. So I've just copied, and so now I need to change these things, right? So I need to change these things, source path and the destination path. So I need to change these things basically. So what I'll do is, let me change this source path to in whatever the node. So I have something, this, let me create some touch a b or something a file a and touch. I'm doing a creation of a file, so I want to copy this a file onto my Ansible master. Okay, so that is what I want to do now. So I'll take this pwd, and then I'll take this particular path, because in this I have my thing, right? So what I'll do is I'll just change this one. So I've changed this, and my this thing is a, right? So on the destination path, so what I'll do is, again in this mission also this particular folder is there, right? So I'll give this one and let me save this. So now Ansible -playbook, then I need to specify the host file, and then the YML which I'm using. So then what it does, so when I do ls now, see the from, okay, so it has created a folder with that particular host name. So 35. So in that I should be able to see the folder, however it was in that, and now in that, inside that I should have a file called as a. Okay, so this is how, if you want to fetch it from your node onto your master, so this is how you'll do it. Okay, so this is what the question was. So what are all the modules? You can say copy, and you can list, and you can refer this GitHub link as well. So the next thing is, like, let's say I have a playbook, so which has 5 tasks in a playbook. First 2 tasks should run on my local machine, and other 3 tasks should run in the node. So In Ansible, there is something called a single play and a multiple play. So in a playbook, you can have a single play, means like you can use one web server. So means like one group of servers, you can run all the tasks on that. So I can use multiple plays, so wherein like you can execute few tasks on one group of servers, and in one another group of servers you can execute other tasks. So whatever this question is there, right, you can achieve it in multiple ways by using when, and there is a concept called as blocks, by using which that also you can achieve it. So what I've taken is I've taken, to make it very simple, so I've taken a multiple place concept. So I've executed this. So let me show you this. So I've already written this playbook as well. So the name of that playbook in the same, this one is multiple play. Just search for that. And here, I'll explain the playbook here itself. So what I'm assuming here, my nodes doesn't have the internet connectivity at all. So what I'm trying to do here is I'm just installing the wget in the local host in Ansible master basically. So, and also I've set gather facts is false. So gather facts, if you set it to true, so then it will take all the facts about your node machine and then it will store it. So I just wanted to ignore those things. So that's the reason I don't want to collect my local host gather facts, right? So I don't need it. So that's the reason I'm just keeping it as false. And then, so I'm just installing wget. There are two tasks, as question says. There are two tasks, which is wget I'm installing. So in my case, I don't need it actually, but to make it two tasks, I'm just installing wget. And the next task is Jenkins. I am downloading Jenkins WAR file. So as I already mentioned, so I'm assuming my nodes doesn't have internet connectivity. My use case is I need to download WAR file on my master and then copy it onto my node and then start it. Okay. So as you can see, so in the first task, I'm just copying my Jenkins WAR file onto my destination. Okay. And then in the second task, I'm executing a shell module. Here I'm executing multiple commands. I wanted to keep in a single module, so that's the reason. So I'm using a multi-line commands. Okay, make directory, and I'm moving. Here I'm creating a folder structure because I don't want my Jenkins folder should be there under home. So that's the reason I'm just copying onto my Jenkins folder which I've created previously, and then in the background I'm running a no hop command. So java-jar and I'm giving ampersand, so that's the reason it will run in the background as well. Okay, so this I guess I have already copied. As you can see now, when I do cat and test dot YML, okay, I am in a wrong folder. So let me go back cd/home and sDevOps. So when I go here and when I see it, so when I do cat and this test.yml, okay, I'll be able to see the same thing I've copied from there. So let me execute this Ansible-playbook. Okay, then I need to give the host and I need to give the playbook name as well. So now the first task is wget. So it says okay, and the next step is download Jenkins. So it is downloading a WAR file. It will take a couple of seconds. Yes, now it is done. So the next task, so as you can see, multiple plays. This is the first play and the second play. So as I already mentioned, so you can achieve this particular question, whatever the question is there, right? You can achieve it in multiple ways. So one is by using when conditions, are by using a block. There is a concept called as block, by using which you can achieve it. So I just wanted to keep simple, so that's the reason I've just taken this. Okay, so now so what I've done is like I've just installed and run my Jenkins, right? So what we will do, we will take the IP of my node, so which is basically, this is my Ansible node, right? So I'm gonna take this particular one and I'll just check like whether Jenkins is up and running or not. So my Jenkins runs on 8080 by default. So it will take a couple of seconds. Yes, as you can see, it is up and running. Yeah, so it is like initial password. It is asking initial password. So anyway, we will gonna discuss Jenkins questions as well, right? So that time we will take that and then we will give you. Okay. And let's jump on to the next questions quickly. And next questions on Jenkins. The first question was how to save only last 5 builds of a Jenkins job. So I'll pause the video. I'll just make sure my Jenkins is up and running, which I have created, which I've installed through my playbook. So it'll take little time. So I'll just pause the video until then. So my Jenkins is up and running. So the question was how to save only the last 5 builds. Because when you install a Jenkins, so basically it does have a .jenkins folder in the background. So where the file system of your Jenkins is saved. So where there is a place, so wherein all your build information and everything, the configurations of your job or configuration of your Jenkins file, everything will be saved there only. So like let's say one project is there which is for last 2 years. So every one build for every day. So that means 365 plus 365, which comes around like more than 750 builds. So keeping like those many whole builds, it doesn't make any sense. So in that cases, you can ask the client, or you can, depending on client requirement, you can keep only the last specified builds. So by which like you can take off the memory that you will be used by this build files. So before that, so I'll go to my mission wherein I've installed my Jenkins, right? So I'll go here. So let me go to .jenkins. So folder. So here is the place, so wherein it will gonna store all your build things. Okay, so there is something called as jobs folder, right? So inside this, so there will be something called as a builds folder. Okay, so here if you go ahead and if you see, so I've created one job actually in that, as you can see, so there are like 1 2 3 6 jobs there. If I go ahead and if I run few more jobs, see, this is my job which is running. So now when I go ahead and again if I run it, okay, mvn clean, so what it does, it will gonna create one more build. And if I go back to my machine, if I do ls, now again one more build will be created, build folder. So if I keep on adding up here, so my memory is wasted. So that's the reason I wanted to only keep the last 5 builds. So how would you achieve that? So there'll be an option. So when you click on configure, and you will get an option, so discard old builds. So then you can say like maximum number of builds that you need to keep. So when you say 5, so in my case I've asked as a 5. So when you say 5 and click save, and then when you go back to this build with parameters, and when you click on run now, so all the things like 1 2 3 will be deleted upon like successful build. Only the last 5 builds will be stored. Take a little time, so let's verify that. As you can see now 1 2 3 has been deleted. So that you can do a log rotation wherein you don't need to keep all those the previous builds. So whichever the new builds you wanted to keep them only, so then you can, by using this you can do it. And you can also save the memory in your Jenkins host. Okay, so this is how when you want to keep only specific builds, so then this is how you need to do it. And then the next question is, have you worked on Jenkins file? You should say yes. So nowadays, like no one is using Freestyle. If they're using also, they're trying to migrate it towards Jenkins file, which is pipeline. And then can we use a Docker as an agent? So it is node, but it is agent in declarative, in node in perspective of scriptive. So I'm gonna explain this with descriptive. So that's the reason agent. So we can, yes, we can use Docker as agent in a Jenkins file. And the next sub part of this question is, who will handle Docker container creation and deletion? The container creation and deletion handled by Jenkins itself. So it automatically creates the container. On top of that container, it will gonna do the build. So once the build is done, so then the container will be deleted. Okay. And the next part of the question was, I'm building a Maven project. Let's say I'm building a Maven project. So whenever when I'm running onto this particular job on a container, so every time it will be a fresh instance. As I said, so Docker container will be created by Jenkins. So once the build is successful, and then it will gonna delete it. So let me show the logs. So this particular job uses the container itself. So before that, let me go to Jenkins file, and let me show you how that Jenkins file is. So repo name is Jenkins file in my GitHub ID. So in this, I've taken develop branch as an example. So let me go to develop branch here. Jenkins file, if you see the Jenkins file, so here I've used agent as Docker. So Docker and what image I want to use, because I'm running a Maven command. So that's the reason I've used a Maven image. Okay. And if I go here and when I check the logs, so as you can see, it starts as the Docker container at the beginning of the execution. At the end, so then it is stopping and removing as well the container. So whenever the next build comes, again the new container, and it will stop at the end, and every time like it will be a fresh instance. So whenever you execute on a fresh instance mbn install, basically it will download everything. So all the dependencies will be downloaded, right? So it will take much time. So I wanted to avoid that. So that is the question is about. So whenever I run for the second time, so I should reduce the build times. How we can achieve it? So this is very simple. So what we can do is, so first what we need to do is on Jenkins host, first you need to download all the dependencies that your project uses. So assume like, so in my case now, my Jenkins host is this one, right? So here, if you see in .m2, already I have all the dependencies, because this project I have ran previously, right? So everything I have, correct? So what I can do, all this repository can be copied onto the container. So then when I copy onto the container, then it can use these dependencies in the local repository of the container, and then it can take less time, right? So that we can do it. So for that, what we need to do is we need to add one line. So that is, we need to add arguments, basically args, and then we need to give -v, and we need to give the .m2 folder. So this is my .m2 folder on the host. So then I'm copying onto my container. The container also, as you can see, so I've ran, so let me go here, and when I run build with parameter, when I select here, it basically runs mbn install in the background. Okay. So Jenkins file is like when you select install, it will execute mbn install. Let me commit these changes first. So when you see here the logs of it, so it is keeping, so it will take a lot of time because it is downloading all the dependencies. As you can see, it took 11 seconds to execute, and it is placing root .m2. So in my container also, so the .m2 folder is present in root/m2. Okay. So now if I run, ideally it should take very less time. So when I run mbn install now, it should take very, very less time. So compared to the last time, the execution time. So again, it is downloading few of the dependencies. So let's check. Yeah, as you can see, previously it has taken, I guess, 10 seconds. Now it has reduced to 5 seconds. Okay, so this is how you can copy the .m2 folder onto the container so that you can reduce the build time. Okay, and the next thing is why we need multi-branch pipeline. So this I won't be creating it. I'm just giving so what is multi-branch pipeline? So basically in every project there will be some branching strategy. So all the stable branches shouldn't be tested by the developers or the test engineers. So what they need to do is they need to create another branch out of master or a develop. So then they need to implement their features, and then they'll raise a PR. It will be reviewed by your managers and the senior people. Then it will be merged back. So some kind of testing should be there in your branch also, right? On your branches as well. So multi-branch pipeline is one of the very important job type in these days. So wherein it will create each job for each branch. Okay. So multi-branch pipeline, what it does, it will automatically discovers, manages, and execute pipelines for each branch. Okay. And also one mandatory thing is each branch should have Jenkins file. If you branch don't have Jenkins file, so then it is not, it won't create a branch job for that particular branch. Okay. And so this is the official link, so wherein it gives like how we can create multi-branch pipeline, and it gives the example. It has shown, they have given very brief about like how we can create it or what is multi-branch pipeline is. Okay. And then next question is, if you forget Jenkins password, how would you log in back? So this is not login back. So how will you go back to your Jenkins screen? So this is very simple. So as I said, so it will be like your Jenkins file. Jenkins will be running on the some machine, right? So basically that will have a backend file system. So when I go to that particular folder .jenkins, okay, so let me go there. So there will be something called as config.xml. Okay, when I go to this particular file, there will be something called as use security. Okay, so when you just make this particular value to false, okay, so this is by default, it will be true. So what I can do is I'll just do this particular value to false. And so if I go back to my Jenkins, so here you can see there will be logout button. When I do logout, it'll by default it'll redirect me to sign in page. So what I'll do, I'll just stop that process in my mission ps-eaf to list all the active processes. There are many processes which are running. I need to identify what my Jenkins process ID is. So my Jenkins process ID is so this one, because this run I have run through my Ansible playbook, right? So this is my process ID. So I'll just gonna kill this one, kill -9, and then this process ID. So when I give this one, so that Jenkins, I won't be access it now, right? So as you can see, it's still rotating. Now what I can do is I can go back to my home folder, because I know where my Jenkins file, jar file is. So I can go there and I can start my Jenkins again. Java -jar jenkins.var. Okay, it will take a little time. So as you can see, it is referring to a root directory and .jenkins folder. So now when I refresh it, so I should be directly going into the dashboard rather than going into sign up page. Okay, so it will take little time to get started. So also config.yml. So that is what I mentioned. So that is very important. So when you're dealing with like if you want to change any settings, then you can use that config.xml. So if you want to copy those settings like from your machine to another local machine, your friends has like what are all the settings that you did, I need it in my system. So you can take that config.xml and give it to him. So that is also possible. Okay. So as you can see now, the no login screen directly onto the dashboard. So if you want to enable again that particular sign-in page, so then you need to set that particular value to true and then you reload it. And next things in Docker. So the first question in Docker was any 3 best practices of Docker. So there are many best practices. So I've listed few of them. The first one is always keep Docker file in an empty directory and make sure. So if at all, if it is with some files, so make sure those files are required for your image creation. Okay, because so when you just like let me go to some of the machine which has Docker installed. So I'll just stop it Jenkins now because we don't need it now. Let me clear the screen. Okay, so now I'm in some directory, right? So when I execute, before that I'm gonna check whether Docker is installed or not. Docker version, yes, Docker is installed. So now, so let me create a simple Docker file. So vi Docker file, and then when I give from, let me insert it from. I'll just take a simple image, busybox, and then I'll do a run, and then I'm just doing a touch A. I'm just creating a file on the image, that's all. When I do Docker build, so what it does is for me, and when I give dot, so it will take what it does, whatever the files which are there in that particular directory. So the Docker context we will call, right? So in dot, in the sense like present working folder. if I supply dot. Okay, what it does is basically it will try to send what are all the files it's present in this particular directory to the Docker daemon. So in my case, there is a jenkins.var, so that's the reason it is taking 67.4 MB, right? So like what I'll do is now so let me create one more folder, mkdir, and I'll create a Docker folder. Inside this Docker folder, so what I'll do is vi Docker file again. Okay, so here again I'll just uh, take the same steps from busybox, and I'll just run a command touch a. Okay, so when I do this one, so again when I do a Docker build on this particular thing, so now it will take very less time, and also it will send only 2 KB because I don't have any files in this directory. So that's the reason. So whenever you're running your Docker file, make sure you're running it in an empty folder, or where you have some files which you need to be copied onto your image. Okay, this is by which like we can avoid unnecessary things that you're sending it to your Docker daemon. It saves your time and also data. And the next thing is use official images, as you can see on the screen. So always like so rather than taking a Debian image and installing JDK and that and running your application, you just take Open JDK image and run your application, by which you can take off a lot of the image layerings, and then you can take it will create a lot of size as well, because you're taking some image, on top of that you're installing JDK. Let's say your Debian image is 500 MB, on top of that you're installing JDK. Assume like it is for 300 MB, again it will add up like 300 more MB, right? It comes up to 800 MB. So and OpenJDK, if you directly use it, like all the configuration will be done by them, and it will be very minimal. And so the OpenJDK image can be very less inside. So that's the reason use official images whenever it is possible, and use more specific tags. So rather than giving like latest tag, so always suggested like use a proper tag, because like let's say you have created a Docker file now, so I've used the latest tag, so then you're rebuilding your Docker file again in the next year, assume like next 3 months. So now the latest version in Docker file, Docker OpenJDK is 8. So now when you run it in next year, so the OpenJDK, the latest version is the 9. So when you give latest tags, so what it does, Docker assumes like there is latest image already there in my cache, so I'll use that only. So in the background, so it is wrong, right? So it is like it is 8 only, but you are thinking that as a 9. So that's the reason. So it is always better like more specific on tags, and look for minimal flavors. So Docker is one of the advantage of Docker is the image size is very less compared to the virtual machines. So whenever you're creating your Docker images, custom Docker images, always look for a minimal flavors. So as you can see on the table, so if you take OpenJDK, it is 624 MB. So if you don't want that, you just need it for simple usage. So then you can go for Alpine images, and which is very uh, less in size. So always Alpine images will be less in size. You can use that, and then you can reduce your image size. And also multi-stage builds. So again, which reduces the size of your image. So when you have like in this example, what they did is, so they're using a Maven image, they're building their code, and they're using again OpenJDK, and they're copying the whatever the executable file they have generated in the previous image cache and copying onto the same. So if you don't use this multi-stage, so then you need to take some Ubuntu image, install Maven, OpenJDK and that, or else like take Maven and install OpenJDK. So it adds up the image size. So if you follow this one, so it will consider only OpenJDK image size, that's all. Okay, so this is how we can reduce the image size as well. So there are a couple of other good practices as well. So I've just listed few. The next thing is Docker, difference between Docker stop and Docker kill. So both the commands are used for stopping your containers. Okay, to make sure the processes that you're running in a container, to stop that, to make sure your container is stopped in state. Okay, so exited in state. So for that, so what I'll do is, so let me take one more prompt of this particular basic Ubuntu thing. So let me take this basic Ubuntu. It is coming up, I guess. Let me, what I'll do, refresh this one. Yes, now I have two things. So the basic Ubuntu, because I wanted to show the parallelly. So when you just give a command docker events, so you can see the live events. So what is happening in your Docker host. So like, let's say when I do docker ps, so sorry about that, docker ps. So I don't have, I have many running containers. So what I'll do is I'll gonna create one more command. Okay, one more uh, so when I show you like this, so when I do docker run -d, I'm just creating a busybox thing. So busybox and then bin sh. Okay, so it will gonna create a container. As you can see the live events when you do a docker events. Okay, so now what I'll do, docker ps I'll do. So now as you can see, busybox is there. So when I execute docker stop, and when I give a container ID, so what it does, basically it sends two kinds of signals. So one is, first it executes signal 15, so it will give 10 seconds of grace period to container or to main process to end. So it will give some grace period, so by which like meanwhile, so it can uh, take some time and it can finish that's work, and then kill the kill signal 9. Okay, so wherein it comes to Docker kill, it's directly killing, like it doesn't give any grace period for Docker containers process to execute it work. So what I'll do, I'll just start my container again, Docker start, and I'll just give the container ID. Okay, so now when I do Docker PS, so I'll be able to see that pod again. Okay, so now Docker kill, and then if I give this particular container ID, as you can see, it says like it sends a signal line directly. In case of Docker stop, it sends signal 15 at signal 9, and in case of Docker kill, so it's directly sends signal 9. So it doesn't give any grace time for container to finish its work. Okay, so that is a basic difference. So as you can see, Docker stop will sense the signal trim, and then signal kill. So wherein Docker kill directly sends signal kill. And also, if you want to send any custom signals by using Docker kill, you can send that. Command to list the containers which in a state exited. So there are commands. So docker ps -a -f is filter. So if status is equals to running, so then if you want only the running containers, then you can use this, because when you execute docker ps, it will give running containers. So when you execute docker ps -a, it will give running and exited. Like if I want only exited, so then you can use this particular option. And if you want to remove only the stopped containers, so then this is how you can do it. And command to clean up the Docker host, deleting stopped containers, dangling images, everything. So the command for that is Docker system prune. So when you do a Docker system prune, okay, so it'll execute, it'll delete basically stopped containers, networks, dangling images, everything. So it is better like always to do, because if your stopped container sitting for a long time, so it will consume a lot of memory. So it's better like stop that. And then the next is what version Docker you have used. So it is always better like what version Docker you have used, and also better know, you just read about the release notes of that particular Docker version. What are all the things has been used, and what are all the things that a particular version has been changed. So those things and all, it's better to say it. Okay. And the next thing is, can we have a multiple CMDs in Docker file? You can have it, but it's no use. Like when you have multiple CMDs, only the last CMD will be taken into account. So multiple CMDs, if you have it, it is no use. Only the last thing will be taken care into account. And have you worked on Docker Swarm and Docker Compose? Yeah, so Docker Swarm is similar to Kubernetes. So it is group of physical servers or virtual machines so that are running so Docker applications. If you want to configure as a cluster and if you want to orchestrate your containers, so you need to go for Docker Swarm. So wherein Docker Compose, it is used for if you have multi-container applications, like let's say you have some a MySQL application, MySQL database, and some other application if you are using. So in that case, you can go for Docker Compose and you can write your multi-container Docker application. And next, it was on Kubernetes. So Kubernetes questions. So the first question was, can we have a multiple containers in a pod? Yes, we can have a multiple containers in a pod. So can we have a similar containers in a pod? So no. So like let's say you're running a ABC container. So with the image, similar container in the sense like the container which is created by the same image or the same process. No, similar containers can't be there in a single pod, because pod is a individual unit which runs a specific container. Okay, but you can have multiple containers like init containers, sidecar containers, which is like support for your application container. Okay, so you can't have similar containers which is running in your pod. Okay, so now like let's say I have 4 containers, one of them has failed. So how would you check which container has failed? Okay, so for that for this I have already my Kubernetes cluster is up and running. So what I'll do is I'll go to Kubernetes master, and so when I execute kubectl, so I'm just checking whether kubectl is installed or not. Yes, it is installed. So now when I execute, so let me increase the font. So when I execute, I have already cloned Kubernetes project. So here I have a lot of examples. So when I create kubectl, apply -f, and when I give this particular folder, so whatever the object files are there in that particular one, it will be created. Okay, so now when I do kubectl get all, so as you can see one pod is running, but other things are like which is errored out. So I want to check, so on upon which container creation it is erroring out. Okay, so to check that, so the command is very simple. So you can use a describe command. So that is what the question is. How will you check if something fails? Okay, so that is kubectl. CTL. Before that, I'll do a get all first. So then kubectl, and then describe pod, and then I need to give the pod name. In my case, any of the pod I'll give. So when I execute this one, so you'll be able to see. Now you can see, so this is the sidecar container. So this is the name of my container. If you see here, so it says like something error image. So this is the reason that the state is waiting. So if you see another container, which is already up and running, and it doesn't have any issues. As you can see, the restart count is 0, exit code is 0. If the exit code is 0, so then your application is successfully running. That is what it means. Okay. So if something is going on wrong, so you'll be able to see in describe logs as well. Okay, so this is if some container is just not running, if it has failed, so you can check it like this. And what is liveness and readiness probe? So liveness and readiness probe is used to make your application highly available. So I mean, I have answered the second part of the question. Why we need them to make your application highly available? You use liveness and readiness probe. So I have a detailed video about liveness and readiness probe. So liveness probe is basically used for restarting container whenever it is unresponsive. It can be many cases. It can be application infinite loop issue or some memory issue. It can be anything. So if container will be unresponsive. So liveness probe makes sure it will be restarted. So when it comes to readiness probe, so when you start your container, when you execute your container, so even before your container starts, so it says like pod 1 out of 1, but actually in the background, so it actually it is not running, because it will take a little time to start your process, right? Like let's say you're running some Java process, it'll take 20 20 to 25 seconds. Okay, so before 25 seconds it won't accept any if it accepts the request, it won't be able to serve it, right? So until unless your container is ready, it shouldn't allow the traffic. So readiness probe makes sure, so until unless your container is ready, it won't accept any traffic. Okay, so that is the combination of liveness and readiness probe is always encouraged to make your application highly available. I have a detailed video, because if I want to show those things, it will take little time. So it will at least take 15 to 20 minutes. So that's the reason I'm just giving what is liveness and readiness probe. There are videos in my channel wherein I have explained liveness and readiness probe in detail. The next one, have you worked on Kubernetes monitoring? Which tools have you used? So yes, Kubernetes is microservice and it is dynamic in nature. So we don't know when a pod comes up, when pod goes off. Like you need to know why the pod recreation is happening and why it is failing as well. And so when you deal with microservices, you'll obviously have a lot of applications to deal with. So in that case, monitoring is very important. Yes, you can say there are many monitoring solutions. So the famous ones are by using Prometheus and Grafana, and you can say ELK stack you've used for monitoring. Again, so I have videos on these things as well. So I'm not promoting my videos. I'm just telling because it will take a lot of time to explain. So at least, as I mentioned, 20 to 25 minutes it will take. So that's the reason I'm just mentioning it. And I have a detailed videos for these things. Okay. And can we deploy a pod onto a particular node? Yes, we can do that. Um, for this, there are many ways, like there is a node selector, a node affinity, attains, tolerations, many concepts are there. So I'm going with node selector because my question is very simple. So wherein can we deploy a particular node on a particular node? So what I'll do is before that, so let me clean my kubectl workspace. Means like I'll gonna delete all the things, get all, and let me kubectl delete, and I'll give a deployment name. And also this pod, I don't know how it has been created, so I'm gonna delete those things as well. So let me clear the screen, and now okay, just taking a little time to delete everything. So now my thing has been cleared. So now when I now execute, so I have already one file which is pod.yml, so wherein I have node selector. So before executing this, so you need to label your node. So when you do kubectl, see in my case kubectl get nodes, there are two nodes attached to my Ansible master, sorry, Kubernetes master, which is basic Ubuntu and Ansible master. So you need to label your node first. By using this command, I've labeled already kubectl label nodes basic Ubuntu, my machine name, and the label size is equals to medium. And also when you're in your pod.yml, so you need to specify one tag which is node selector. So where I'm specifying that tag. Okay. So now I'm again for making sure I'm just seeing like any pods are there or not. Yes, I don't have any pods. Now what I'll do is kubectl apply -f and pod.yml. So it has been created, kubectl get all. And when I see this one, so there is one more option, -o wide. You can use this. So wherein it shows like on which node it has been scheduled. So that is what my requirement was. I wanted to schedule it on particular node. So which is in my case basic Ubuntu. So I've successfully able to run my pod on this basic Ubuntu machine. Okay. So this is so we can do it. So I have that in my GitHub repo. If you're interested, you can fork that as well and you can work on it. And yeah, so that's all. So thank you. So it was a big video. And also one more thing I wanted to um, ask you, like if you have any suggestions that if I want to improve on anything, like the way I answer, so you can always do comment on the comment section and let me know. So yeah, that's all for this video. I guess it was a long video. So thanks for watching. Have a good day. Bye.